personally, I struggled with guilt. There's mom guilt of the usual.
The usual, yes, there's that usual
there's
one.
The usual
obviously.
mom guilt, but
yes.
when you have a child like I did, you ask yourself, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Did I take this you remember the medicine you swallowed when you were pregnant?
Yeah.
Did I take too much sugar? You look for answers to why your child, could I have done better? You are angry.
Yes.
And then some days, why me? Why my son? And then some days you are, I don't want to deal with it. I want to close off the world and hopefully I wake up.
Hours
hopefully I wake up and he's okay. And sometimes my husband would walk in from work. He'd come in a bit later than me and he'd read the room.
Yes.
Pick him up, put him in the car and go
with him
for like 2 hours.
For a breath.
And I would breathe. He'd not even ask questions. And honestly, that was very supportive. He helped, he supported me.
For a mom or two out there, but what is it that how did you walk the journey? Because not even just you, of course, your husband is there supporting you. You have other children who maybe are even wondering, how come, and maybe they want to play with him, they want to do certain things, and you're saying, no. All they keep hearing is no, maybe.
Don't touch.
Yes, don't touch, don't do this, don't. And they're like, but why? Because they don't, get it. So a mom who is listening in, or that parent who is listening in, what is it that you want to tell them and say, look, guys, it's going to happen this way. This is what the world is going to say about it. This is how you can react to it. Do you have all the answers? Of course you don't have all the answers, but we are just sharing that bit of which can be an answer to somebody. Welcome to the Empowerment Lounge with me, Caroline, the Mom Empowerer. It's good to see you again. I hope you're living large and you're living your life fully. Today we have a special guest here with us, Dr. Carol. You're most welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yes, and it's good to have you here. Thank you for making the time to join us.
You're welcome.
Yes. Just introduce yourself to us.
All right. Excuse me. I'm Caroline Nerima Muyingo.
Yes.
I'm a Christian, mom. I like to put my what I do last, because it really stands out for many of us. But I love life. I have many stories to tell. I talk a lot for those that know me.
Okay.
And last but very importantly, I work with children. I'm a pediatrician. I particularly work with children who have developmental disorders, developmental delays, or what people call disabilities. Yes.
Okay, that's a nice little package that you've wrapped up for us. And in a special way, I'm hosting Dr. Carol because of the speciality that she has. But first, just tell us about your life as a mom.
All right, I'm blessed with 3 lovely children, 2 boys and a girl. And my motherhood journey was regular, if I could call it, in the beginning, if I could call it that, like any mom, fresh out of internship, married, having a baby. Yes. And then, I go on to have a second child. During pregnancy, everyone is excited. Is it a boy? Is it a girl? I was hoping it was a girl, but it wasn't. Yes. And I had my pregnancy normal, just like any other mom. Yeah. And my son was born. And shortly, maybe a few months into his development, I began to notice a few things that were a little off. But like any mother, you do not want to even go down that road. Yeah. So I told myself, no, Carol, you're overthinking it just because you probably know what it should be. Every child has their growth trajectory. Yeah. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about my son. And when he made the year, it was very clear that his growth was different. He wasn't saying much, very active, but not saying much. Wow. So I gave it time. And fortunately or unfortunately, as he was still getting into his toddler years and I was expecting my 3rd baby. So I was a very busy mother. I had 3 kids in 4 years. And life was busy. I had a full-time job that required me to travel a lot all over the country, and rarely at home. I was a weekend mom. And thankfully their father stepped up and did a lot of the nurturing. And then 1 year later, I couldn't ignore it anymore. And my son obviously had a growth delay with communication and social skills. And at the age of 2.5, I took him to have a formal assessment by a pediatric neurologist, and he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And that changed my life, changed everything for me, And I can say it's one of those things, when you have a child who is different, you begin to grieve because you've lost the one you thought you had. And all of a sudden you're plagued with thoughts of, the thought that constantly was on my mind is, what is going to happen when I'm not here? Well, before I slept, I had that thought. Every time I woke up, how will you be without me? How will you be without me? Because I know that this world is not very tolerant of people who are not able to push themselves in certain spaces. So I struggled with those thoughts, and I struggled with even accepting accepting my son was difficult for me in the beginning. And I began the journey. Groping in the dark, looking for solutions. I worked up country at that time. I lived up country. And even in Kampala, there are struggles. But up country, it's even worse. There are no supportive services. And so most of the time, I'd have to bring him to Kampala. I was studying at the time, full-time master's student at the university. And I still had to be a mom. You never get a break, but especially with children who had special needs. You'd really never get a break, you know. So that was the thing that I think changed my life completely. But I had a choice at the time. I either deal with it or run away from it. And I had no choice. You in that space, you know, when you have other children, you feel you can count on your sister. I drop the kids there for the weekend. I need a break. But when you have a special needs child,
it's not the same.
It's not the same. You can't take them anywhere, anytime, anyhow, with who. Before you leave home, you have to plan your journey. You have to plan everything. So it changed a lot of things for me. I became a bit of a recluse. It was harder to talk to everyone about it, although I used to talk, and which I think was very therapeutic for me. I even would talk to strangers, because every time I would meet my son, he's doing something weird. I put weird in quotes because it was different.
That's what
I felt the need to explain to the strangers. You know, my son has this. You know, my son has this. And for me, it was therapeutic because you just need, I talked about it. I didn't hide it. I didn't struggle with denial because by the time I had an assessment done, I pretty much knew.
Especially given your
my medical background, but also my maternal intuition. I just knew that there was something different. He was described as a quiet child. My brother came home to visit when he was 7 months and said, "Oh, he's so peaceful."
And everybody wants to
carry that peaceful child, but that peaceful child is not talking. That peaceful child is not developing language skills, and that's. I think in Africa we are tuned to. We want children to be invisible, not heard, not seen, don't talk. That's a well-behaved child. So he was classified as well-behaved, but that's already a child that's not growing. Well, and that's already a red flag. So I pretty much knew what was going on, but then I began the journey. And you'd imagine that because I'm a doctor, it should be an easy journey. But I'll give you one very sad experience that for me changed everything. So when I came to Kampala to look for a neurologist, I first went to Mulago because, you know, I knew the neurologists, I would find a neurologist there. And between the two pediatric the outpatient pediatric unit and one of the inpatient wards, there's a walkway. So I go into the outpatient department and I ask to see a certain doctor. They said, "Oh no, he's not in the country. Maybe you'll have to come back after 2 weeks." Now I had come from Bara and I needed to go back. And I came out of the outpatient and stood there. And this is Mulago Hospital. I was trained in Mulago Hospital. I knew all the corners, but I've never felt so lost. Wow. So alone, I didn't know where else to go. Everybody would pass, busy. You know, people, health workers, they are busy. And then a few doctors would pass and, you know, you'd say, I'm looking for somebody. They say, oh, sorry, and move along.
Yeah, no answer.
No. Well, a few tried, but they were not really good solutions at the time. Yeah. And I asked myself, if me, a doctor, I'm failing to navigate this system, what about the moms that don't even have a clue that even their child has a problem to begin with and are really looking for solutions? So thankfully, I was able to go into the private sector because that's where I found the neurologist, and you know, we started our journey. But I kept on going back to that day and saying I was so alone, even in a system that I understood. I was so alone. And this is what got me thinking: how can we make it better for moms to find solutions, for starters to even find out what's amiss, what's wrong, but to find solutions for their children. At that time, I was working in the HIV programming, and we used to do a lot of travel through the health centers, the lower unit health centers in different rural areas, and we were trying to set up HIV services for children. So I've worked in different spaces for children. And we were trying to increase the number of children getting into HIV care who were diagnosed with HIV. And it was a struggle because screening, you know, anything around children is a bit mysterious when it comes, when health workers are involved, because they are always, this child is too small, this child is... So I kept, with all of that background, I kept thinking, how can I get this experience and help these children who are walking on the streets, probably in schools being beaten for not understanding why they are not passing mathematics, or they are being beaten for being stubborn or not listening, and yet they have an issue. How can we get them into care, and how can we help the system respond to them effectively? So I think that changed my life in how I viewed life, how I viewed children, how I viewed the health system. But on a personal level, there were some good things and maybe some bad things that came out of it. I don't know which one you want to hear first.
No, both. No, what we want to hear is both, because what you're speaking about, I'm very sure there are very many moms who are relating to it. The advantage that you actually had, leave alone your instincts as a mom, you had that medical background. As you've said, imagine you're in a hospital where you did your training. Like, people are supposed to be running to you, but they're not. Now imagine how a stranger walks into there, like, where do they start from? You are in that situation of where do I start from? And I'm so sure that there are very many moms out there who are saying, oh my goodness, like, I have been there, you know? So it's okay for you to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, like they like to, because that is my life, by the way. I have the good, the bad, and the ugly. You have the good. Everybody does. So what we want really is to share all that, you know, and because we're here to learn from one another. There's some moms who are dealing with it or just finding out. Let's say there's a mom out there who found out this week and they're like, life has stopped. Where do I, as in, can I even face tomorrow? That is what they're looking at, facing tomorrow. But you have painted this picture of, yes, you got to know about it, life became real to you, it changed everything, just like it's changing life for a mom or two out there. But what is it that how did you walk the journey? Because not even just you, of course, your husband is there supporting you. You have other children who maybe are even wondering, how come, you know, and maybe they want to play with him, they want to do certain things, and you're saying, no. All they keep hearing is no, maybe.
Don't touch.
Yes, don't touch, don't do this, don't. And they're like, but why? Because they don't, you know, like, get it. So a mom who is listening in, or that parent who is listening in, what is it that you want to tell them and say, look, guys, it's going to happen this way. This is what the world is going to say about it. This is how you can react to it. Do you have all the answers? Of course you don't have all the answers, but we are just sharing that bit which can be an answer to somebody.
All right, so personally, I struggled with guilt. There's mom guilt of the usual.
The usual, yes, there's that usual
there's
one.
There's the usual
obviously.
mom guilt, but when you have a child like I did, you ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Did I take this you remember the medicine you swallowed when you were pregnant?
Yeah.
Did I take too much sugar? You look for answers to why your child, could I have done better? So the guilt is crazy. You are angry.
Yes.
And then some days, why me? Why my son? And then some days you are, I don't want to deal with it. I want to close off the world and hopefully I wake up. Hopefully I wake up and he's okay. And the constant thing in your mind is, how can he be okay? So one time I was, as usual, my thoughts were plagued with, how can I make my son okay? How can I make Hosea okay? He's called Hosea. And I was in this taxi going to Wandegea, and I forgot, I had a voice, I believe it was God, asking me, how do you want him to be okay if you don't accept him first? How do you want the world to respond to him if you yourself are not responding to him as he is? Because everything within me was saying, I want you to be okay. And so every interaction with Hosea, you need to learn to drink with a cup because I want you to be okay. And the fear behind it was the world is going to reject you. So I want you not to be rejected by the world. So be okay, be like others. And I was frustrated. I was angry. I was sad. And then I felt guilty because the poor thing was just...
He came into it. He
didn't ask for it, you know. So I was oscillating between crying and laughing. And some days I cried. I think I cried most in my life ever. So every night I'd go to bed with tears. And by the end of the day, we were frustrated. I didn't want to be with him. He didn't want to be with me because we have probably fought. And sometimes my husband would walk in from work. He'd come in a bit later than me, and he'd read the room. Pick him up. Put him in the car and go
with him
for like 2 hours
for a breath.
And I would breathe. He'd not even ask questions. And honestly, that was very supportive. He helped. He supported me in so many ways. He just was present. And of course, my son gravitated more towards him because he was the more patient one of the two. For me, I was, you have to be okay. You have to fix it. This world isn't kind.
And that's a mom thing. That's a mom thing. We can all relate to that. You know?
This world isn't kind, Hosea. You have to get better. Until I had that moment when I said, but do I accept my son? I had to have those moments of actually asking, do I accept him? Acceptance doesn't mean I'm not going to do anything about it. But acceptance means this is what I've got. This is what I got served. This is what I'm working with. This is how I'm going to move forward.
Make it work.
I think from the time I accepted that this is him, he's not being obstinate. He's just not understanding why he has to do certain things. He's not refusing to go to a certain place because the noise is too much for him and he had sensitivity issues. He's not refusing to brush his teeth because he's stubborn, but because his mouth can't handle. That helped me. That helped me. But still, there are days I'd be like, no, we have to be okay. And then, of course, the comments from the other people didn't make it better.
They're not sensitive.
They're not sensitive to, because they'd say things like, why don't you beat your child a bit more? Why don't you discipline your child a bit more? He's spoiled. But thankfully, I quickly learned that they don't know. They haven't walked in my shoes.
They're speaking from a point of ignorance.
And not that they are bad people. And that helped me because that means I was able to accept help. Also able to teach them. I had to teach my own family about it. Now, my dear mom, who tried her best way to comfort me, and she would say, no, Carol, Hosea is okay. He's just growing. It was her way of comforting me. But if you believe that, then you're blinded to ways of helping him. My dear sister wanted to help, but she was so scared. Simply because every time my son saw her, he would beat her. I don't know why. They pick people whom they're just going to either, I think, either he really liked her or she just looked different for him. So he would always pinch her. One time he tried to throw her into a pot. There was a cactus plant outside church, and he tried to throw her. Not because he hated her, but he was trying to show her that this thing pricks. So he had touched and it pricked him, and so he was trying to show her, and she wasn't understanding, so he just pushed her into it so it could prick him, and
so she knows.
And then also being at church and watching all other children running away from your child, because he's weird. I put that in quotes, because he didn't know how to make very good eye contact.
Like
Also, to start the conversation, he had no speech. So he'd go in front of a child and look.
Yeah,
The
child is all...
And I think it was his way of saying, can you see me?
Yeah, like,
the child would back up and run up, and then you just see him seated alone.
Yeah,
Those were painful moments for me, watching, asking myself, will you ever have a friend? Will anyone ever want to be your friend? And you go through that, and then you try to cope. Now, I didn't have much mental health support, because at that time, you have no time for counseling. You have, you're surviving. And I learned to cope in very unhealthy ways. I ate. No, I ate chocolate.
Welcome to the club. We all personally.
So that was my time of just feeling good. So the endorphins of chocolate, a plate of chips, a bottle of Coke. Of course, it had its detrimental effects on my health.
But in that moment,
I needed to survive.
You needed it.
I think it's just now that I'm beginning to talk about it and to talk to somebody. And then there are days you'd get burnt out. And it's not ending. It's not like malaria where you're going to give a drug, it's going to be better. But it's not
You're
ending.
sure, like in 7 days,
there are no guarantees.
2 times 7, then after that, we're
There are
good.
no guarantees that he's going to talk tomorrow. It never ends. You never see an end to it. And so I honestly believe that my strength came from my faith. That was one of the biggest, the positive things or the coping things that, the mechanism of coping for me was my faith. That's awesome. I believed that, there's a word in Isaiah, I think it's 54, that says, these are my, I think it's a paraphrase, for they are God's creation. And these are my children and I think I love it. Something, I'm just paraphrasing. And I realized that this is God's child. And he gave him to me because he knew he would give me whatever I needed to take care of him.
His grace is sufficient.
His grace was sufficient. So my faith helped me to cope up to now. And I've seen, honestly, good things come out of it. And there was the good, the bad, the ugly. I lost a lot of social connections because I was trying to survive. Not very many people understand. Very many people keep away because they don't know how to help. Or they don't know that they'll say the right things or the wrong things. But I think that from my experience with my son, it changed my career trajectory. I was already training in pediatrics, and then I decided to go into the branch of pediatrics that deals with these children, because even in our training, not much is talked about. Not very many pediatricians are conversant. They know what it is, but conversant with managing a family. This is a chronic condition. It's not, it's everything. And there are transitions. It's a toddler, he's in school, then now he's an adolescent. They get feelings. They get interested in girls. And maybe they're going to grow up a girl because they don't know that, you don't grow up girls, and then they'll be probably calling you out because was he trying to rape the girl? There are issues. And then there is transition to adulthood. Does he need assisted living? How is he going to have a career? All those phases. You keep going through this. So, and the system here doesn't have much of that support, but I think it's going to grow. So that really has been my journey. He's now in a much better place. He's independent. He's in school. And one of the other game changers was that I got help. I got somebody who was a full-time carer for him and trained her on the job. And I was blessed that she's been loyal for 7 years. She's been with me. She's grown with him. She's taken him to school. And I didn't allow Hosea I didn't allow this thing around him that, he's like that. Let him do what he wants. No. I said, I will train you as much as you need to be trained, as long as you can, your brain can take it. As long as you can achieve that skill, I'm going to teach you. I didn't baby him. So even at home, when he's eating, when he has eaten, he's going to take his plate and wash it like everyone else. He's going to make his bed. It may not be neat, but he's going to have to learn that I need to make my bed like everyone else. And so I train him for the world, not for me. So that if he needs to stay with you one day, he will try to take care of himself as much as possible. So that has been the journey.
And for me, the way you've explained it, and the energy, I can even feel the energy, like he's definitely doing better. You're raising him to do like the basics. You know him so well, and you're saying for these ones, like, give it a try. And I know he feels it, you know, rather than being isolated, you know, you're bringing him into the fold and saying, and even that helps those around you.
Yes.
Because what you said was key is accepting him first, you know, because sometimes we actually are hoping the world will accept us before even we accept ourselves. Leave alone Hosea and his like special, even you and me, sometimes we're like, but why isn't the world accepting? We are looking for acceptance outside when within we don't have that acceptance. But for you to actually recognize that and say, you know what? God's grace is sufficient.
Yeah.
This is God's child, made in his own likeness and in his own image, because that's what the word tells us, that we're made in God's image and his likeness. So to stand in that, it gives you strength to know that, like, God will provide. Because you've talked about the different stages, and I actually hadn't thought about them, like as a teenager, university level, then as an adult, there's that whole long life. So the fact that you give it that whole long perspective, it brings so much hope. And I'm hoping that whoever is listening to this and finds themselves in this situation, or knows somebody who is finding themselves in this situation, like, hope has been created, because I can see that you're not even, you went far and beyond. Any other person would have said, I think, this is my child, and I will stay in this space, not even thinking about the pediatric side, and even going further to say, now I want to really go into this. They would have said, I'm okay with just having one. Let everybody else take care of their other, you know. But you're in this space, you're making a difference. And there are times when I look at your postings on LinkedIn and everything, and it's like so positive. And for me, that really says something about you, and it makes me proud to be associated, because you're putting it out there. You're saying, this is special, and we need to pay attention and treat the children in a special way. And when he does something, you post about it. So just really kudos to you as far as that is concerned. So I would just like for you to share with us, whoever is watching this, what are those particular things that you'd like for them to know, maybe to focus on as a mom, who is about following instinct, first of all. When you think something is wrong, it most probably is, because sometimes we want to ignore. We don't want to be that person who, you know, but what advice would you give in that area, especially when they're starting off, and what sort of help, you know, should they reach out for? How can they go about it? I know you'll not give all the answers now, but just something for somebody to go away with as they watch this. All right.
So the first thing is, if you feel something is wrong with your child, go and let him have an assessment. Yeah. Oftentimes in our culture, most of the moms I've met, the grandparents especially, will say, no, give him time. He'll catch up. Catching up is never a good plan. Waiting to catch up is not a good strategy for management. Yes. If you think something is amiss, find out. Yeah. Early intervention is the key for management of these children with developmental delay or developmental disorders. Yeah. Number two, this is life. The therapy, the mainstay of intervention is therapy. And therapy is basically teaching the child the things they ought to do at a stage they ought to do them. And this is usually done by professionals, occupational therapists, speech therapists, physiotherapists, if the child has a physical issue, educational specialists, because the children may need special needs education or special needs support in school. But I'm a great advocate for home interventions because they're doing life. Yes. So use the daily activities in the home setting to teach the child a skill. Don't wait to get, because the therapist costs a lot of money. Yeah. And for you to get this child to learn, you may need a minimum of 20 hours a week, especially in the early days. You don't have the money possibly, and you won't find the specialists. There are not many, and they are busy. Yeah. And you don't want somebody who is rushed in your space, because the child, you may find the first one of, if you have an hour of therapy, the first 30 minutes are spent the child learning to engage. You can go and the child is not interested in engaging with you that day. And if they don't engage, they can't learn. So I'm a big advocate for home, because you as the mom, you as the carer, you have the best interest of your child at heart. You have more time with them.
Yes.
Hopefully you do.
Yes.
And if you don't, see how you can make time, because no
Prioritize.
one is going to be more interested in your child than you.
Yes.
And then get help at home. I did get help. I didn't leave my job, but when I left work, I would do things with my sons.
Yes.
When we were bathing, excuse me, when we were bathing, we were naming body parts. And he didn't even have verbal skills then. He had very poor eye contact.
Yeah.
But every time I sang, he would look at me. So I quickly learned that to engage you, I need to look in, I need to sing.
Yes.
So when we are bathing, we'd sing head, shoulders. You'd look at me, and then you'd see him trying to imitate. He would try to read my lips.
Yes.
And then what I was doing was speech therapy, actually.
Okay.
But I didn't have to find space out of my usual schedule, because I didn't have that time.
Yeah.
And let's face it, not many of us do. But use this. If we're in the kitchen, he was, at the time he was interested in cooking. And one time he actually, the help had left, you've left beans on the stove and left the salt, there.
Oh, okay.
And she had walked away. And I think he had watched her putting salt. So he got the whole
and put
it in, all of it. Of course, the sauce was not edible.
Yes.
And another time we ate deep fried beans, because he got the whole oil
and put
in the beans.
Yes,
of course, she was mad.
Yeah.
But I found it amusing, because he's learning. He was imitating, and that is learning.
Positive.
That's positive. So what you do, instead of saying, don't scream, you teach him, even when they don't talk, they are picking.
Yes.
They are picking what they call receptive language skills. They can receive language.
Yeah.
They may not express it. You teach him that you put 2 spoons instead of a whole bottle.
Yeah.
So you use daily activities to enhance the child's learning.
Okay.
You even teach skills like waiting. They usually are not, they're impulsive. They may not like to wait. So when a child wants something, they'll pull your hand. They'll not say anything. They can't point, most of them. And then they'll throw themselves down if they can't get what they want. Yeah. So if you want something, you point at it.
Yes.
You say the word and give it maybe a minute, then give it to him. You're teaching him the word. You're showing him that when you want something, you point.
Yeah.
And then you give it to him.
Yeah.
The next time he's going to learn, when I want something from, I point. You are teaching. You are the therapist of your child.
Yeah.
So equip yourself with knowledge as a mom.
Yeah.
There's a lot of knowledge, unfortunately, on the internet. Anybody puts anything out there, and there's so much conflicting information, but get information from credible sources.
Yes.
Other moms are a good source of information, but I forgot to mention, autism is a spectrum with varied abilities. Okay. So what works for some moms may not work entirely, but there are principles. Yeah. There are principles. Treat your child with compassion. Be compassionate. Don't spoil them, but be compassionate. Yes. Understand that they do these things because they don't know better, not because they are being stubborn. Have it at the back of your mind that not everything must be taught by beating, especially for those children, because you teach them culture. That beating is how I get things done. Then they'll start beating other people. Okay. Yeah. Include their siblings. I struggled with his siblings because they felt left out.
You're paying attention
to him. They were also young, and they needed my attention. So I had to teach them what autism was in their young minds, And then I had to explain why their brother does what he does. Yes. And slowly, over time, they are now his support system. They are now looking out for him. When we are in public, and when he was young, I used to wander off a lot. His older brother used to make it a point to grab his arm all the time, even when, they would fight. But he knew Hosea runs, so we have to keep around. His younger sister is like deputy mom. You haven't bathed well, go back and bathe. Include the siblings. Get support. Talk about it. Some families may not be receptive, but talk nonetheless. They'll get with the program. And then tell your employers.
That's key.
Tell your employer that I have a special needs child. Some employers may be compassionate, some may not, but let them know. Because some days you just may come to work and you didn't sleep. Because some of these children may have other conditions, like, say, epilepsy. They have seizures all through the night. Or these children tend to have feeding difficulties because they're very picky about what they eat. Now, they are picky eaters, but autistic children are not picky eaters. They don't even handle the texture of certain foods. So they may not. My son only ate Weetabix for breakfast every day. If you gave him bread, he'd look at you And that the word breakfast, he said, breakfast. So
where's the Weetabix, please?
He just said breakfast. So if you didn't give him Weetabix,
there is no breakfast.
He would have a meltdown that day.
Wow.
Because in his mind, the routine was Weetabix, Weetabix. He ate only that, bread, rice, beans. You didn't bring pumpkins, he would spit them out. You brought avocado, he would spit it out.
Yeah.
Because the texture was what? A problem.
He wasn't,
But as we did more therapy and massaging the mouth and lots of patience, lots of trying over and over again. He eats anything now. Anything, you know. It takes time. Patience.
Yes.
Patience is key. Patience is key. And if possible, if your work cannot allow you to have time with your child, if possible, I'm not saying quit.
Yes.
If possible, and you have an alternative, get an alternative.
Yeah.
Because they need you, especially in the formative years. And it pays off. When I see his independence now, I know we still have a journey.
Yes.
But there are things that we have managed to overcome. And it's so much easier. Because now I leave home and I tell him, I'm going to work, and he'll say bye. And, you know, he'll understand when I come back, we are doing this and this. But before that, it was not easy. So get help. Take care of yourself. You're not the first... You're not the first mom to deal with it.
Yes.
Don't feel sorry for yourself.
Yes.
Don't feel sorry for yourself and think life has dealt you such a hard blow. Don't give up. Because once you don't take care of yourself, your child is the victim. So I keep telling some of the moms, put on your big girl panties. Cry. Yes. Put on your big girl panties.
Be in your feelings.
Be in your feelings. Yes. Afterwards, wipe your face.
Yes.
And pick up where you left off. Pick up where you left off. Have fun. Once in a while, if you have support, put him somewhere. Go and
for 1 hour,
fun.
2 hours, 3 hours.
You drown yourself in this, you become bitter. You become bitter with the world. When you see people having fun, you're like, they're having fun and me, I'm just here. But it's not their fault and it's not your fault either.
It's nobody's fault.
You know what? Equip yourself. Don't feel sorry for yourself. And those people out there that see us, don't feel sorry for us. Ask us, how can I help? Don't look at me and say sorry. Ask, how can I help you, Carol? When we're at a party and my son is running amok, ask, can I help you? How can I keep
Even
him?
watch out for him.
Watch out for him if he's crossing the road. Watch out for him. Be a part of the solution.
Okay. Wow. It's for me, it's been very enlightening, and I knew that you would have this to share, you know, like authentic, true, and I really appreciate you sharing this with the world, really, because people are looking for answers and they don't have those answers. But when we come and we tell them, I've been where you are, I am still where you are, and you can actually make it work, because it is possible. Some people think it is not possible, but you have just told us that it is possible to have a life with a special needs child. And thank you for sharing with us the things that we can do even at home. You know, as you've said, not everybody has the financial help that they can get. It is important to have the finances, but you can make do with what you have and you can make it work. And there is hope. For me, that is what you have given, and I'm sure you've transformed so many people's minds around this whole thing. And for me, I've been enlightened. You know, you're sitting here, you're living proof that it's possible, and you're doing great, and you're still doing great, and you have that support system around you that you have built. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, that there's something that we can do about it. And we have had this time, and I'm really looking forward to be able to host the mothers out there, the parents out there who are in the circumstances that you found yourself, to be able to share more, to give them a platform to ask the questions that I know they should be asking themselves right now, and they want to hear from you. So I'm hoping that when we invite you back in that setting where we have, you know, the physical setting, that branch, you'll be able to come and share with us even more. But even take it wider. Anything is possible now that we have opened this up, and I know we can do so much more for the moms that have the same circumstances that you have, and we can give them that answer, we can give them that purpose and the positive living that they are looking for. So thank you so much, Carol, for coming in, for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
for sharing your story, and I really look forward to what else it is that we can do. So just stay well, and I wish Hosea nothing but the best, and I know that he's growing up in so much love around him, and thank you for accepting that and for giving that to him, for gifting it to him.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Yes, so thank you everybody for being with us today and for listening into this powerful story, and we look forward to the much more that we can do here. This is Caroline, the Mom Empowerer, so we'll be seeing you.